Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello. How's it going today? Hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Feeling positive and good. I'm back here to bring you some more information to help you build that life that you want. Make sure you're creating your own happiness and just creating the life that you want to live. I love being able to talk to you guys pretty much about anything that, comes to my mind that I feel has a really important part of life itself and of happiness. And lately I've been really thinking about courage, and I've really been thinking about all the virtues. I guess being in this pandemic has made me become very aware of my life and my surroundings and goals and where I want to go. And thinking about where we want to go in life is a part of creating the life that we want, right? We have to be able to have goals and ambitions to, take us to the places that we want to go. But that's not always easy, to just get up and start fighting for your goals or to push past your comfort zone. And, I talk about pushing past your comfort zone a lot on this podcast because I think that's a huge part of growth. I think we always grow when we are uncomfortable. And so being able to get outside of your comfort zone is really, really crucial to building the life that you want and having happiness, I think, because every single day is a new opportunity to learn about ourselves and learn about the world and what we surround ourselves with. And I think we should take advantage every single day. And I love to wake up every single day and think, what am I going to learn today? What am I going to do? How am I going to grow? Some days it's a lot easier to think of these things and I learn multiple things in a day, while others I have less motivation to learn new things or to grow or, to be the best version of me. And we can't always be 100% all the time, which is totally normal and totally okay. But sometimes I find that we hold ourselves back because we're scared, because we are in fear of something, whether that's just, being scared of the unknown, not knowing what's going to be next. And especially right now during a pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know, what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in a week or anything like that. And, we can never tell the future. But right now, there's a lot of uncertainty in our life, which I think really correlates with a lot of fear. And the pandemic has really, I think, installed fear into our life in so many different aspects because we just don't know what's going on. And we don't know when things will get back to the way they were, or if they will ever get back to the way they were exactly. How's life going to change for us? How are our goals going to change? I know this has really probably put a lot of people, made them take a step back because you have to, I feel like a lot of the world, we were put on pause, which means, it's going to take longer to get to where we want to go sometimes because this have probably, brought you lots of different obstacles, from losing jobs to not being able to be in school for some people, or, not being able to see the people you need to see, depending on what you do for work. If you are able to network and go out or travel, maybe you travel for your job and that's impossible right now. So obviously we've put a lot of things on pause and the world is on pause and it's scary. And it makes me think about, my long-term goals. And I always think of my roadmap of where I want to end up and how I want to get there. And the pandemic has installed a lot of fear into how am I going to get there now? When am I going to get there? And I try not to think about, the timeline of it all, because we can't control what's going on. If we could control it, things would be a lot different. And we have to really focus on making sure that we're not trying to overstress or overthink the things that we can't control. But with, all these things that we can't control around us, that makes us scared. And when we get scared and when there's fear kind of instilled in our lives, well, we need to have courage. And that's what today's episode is all about, is finding courage. Because right now, I think we need courage more than ever. I think it's a very important quality to have. I think it's super important to be able to be brave and to go after things that scare you. But I don't think courage is, just going after things that are outside of your comfort zone. It's being able to fight for what you want. And, being ambitious enough to go after it no matter what obstacle is standing in your way, no matter what's going to happen or anything like that. So you have to be able to just push through and go. And just right now, I think it's hard for people to find courage because we have so much fear. And by definition, courage is, it's the bravery or the strength that you get to do something that could be dangerous, that could scare you, that's outside of your comfort zone. It's the courage to stand up for yourself, the courage to go after something, even though, it could be dangerous, or it could be, I'm not saying dangerous as in life-threatening. Well, I guess it could be, but dangerous as in it's outside of your wheelhouse. You're not used to it, you're not comfortable with it, and it scares you. And right now, there's just fear floating around us. And I think it's really important to remember that just because we have all this uncertainty, we have all this unknown, we don't know what's going to happen. I know things have maybe let up a little bit for a lot of places in the world, but there's still that uncertainty of how is the world going to be, and how am I going to get to my next step? How am I going to reach my next goal? How am I going to, get to where I want to go and create the life that I want? While of course making sure we put happiness as our priority, to make sure that we're going after the things that do make us happy, and we're implementing things into our life that bring us joy. But sometimes we have to go outside of our comfort zone, or we're placed in a position, like majority of us are right now, we're placed in a position of what's next, and how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to navigate it? And we have to find the courage within ourselves to be able to find a new pathway, to find a new way to navigate the hand that we've been dealt. And we've all been dealt this crazy, chaotic thing that we never would have thought to see in our lifetime. And I think, being able to have courage in a time like this is really, really important. So I want to talk today about courage, and I want to talk about, fighting your fears. And no matter, whether you have a list of 100 things that you can't control compared to the 3 things on the list that you can control, that's really terrifying. But no matter how many things you can or cannot control, I really want to stress the fact that we should have courage within everything. And the courage that we can find is within ourselves. And I think there's definitely ways that we can get courage through other people. I think it's also a good way, it's like the buddy system and having your support system, and they can push you to be your best, and people that you surround yourself can help you reach those goals and help you find courage in things that are really terrifying for you. But I think it's really important to be able to find that courage within yourself, and even in the darkest, scariest, most uncontrolled, unknown times, we need to have courage, and we need to believe in ourselves that we're strong enough to have the bravery and the strength to do something that is out of our comfort zone, that no one has, very few people have experienced this type of situation that we're in right now. And it's crazy. It's one of a kind. I hope you're journaling and writing about it, because we are living in a historical time, and it's crazy. And so let's find courage in this crazy, unknown, dark, uncontrolled environment that we're all placed in right now. And let's still be able to be pushed outside of our comfort zone, not just within the position that we're in, but in other aspects of our life too. I find right now people, we could be holding back because there's still so much fear from our uncontrolled environments and what's happening in the world that also portrays on our own goals, our personal things that we want to accomplish. And we just have so much fear around us that courage is something that we have to have and we have to remember to find within ourselves. So I'm going to go over courage today. I'm going to talk about, there's actually 6 different types of courage. I'll go over those and just, ways that we can find courage within ourselves, within each other, and just the importance that it has in our lives to reach our goals and to find that happiness in the easier times and especially in the dark, scary, unknown times. So today's going to be all about fighting your fears, fighting the fear of the pandemic, and really just going after what you want and creating that happy life that I always talk about. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break, but when we get back in, I'm going to talk about the 6 different types of courage and how they're kind of mending into different aspects of your life. I'm going to talk about finding it within yourself and just the importance of courage in your overall well-being and happiness. All right, I'm excited to share today with you, so stay tuned. We will be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello. Okay, so we are back, and I am talking about courage today. Courage is something that we all need in our lives because there will always be fear in our lives and this world. Whether we're going through a pandemic or not, there's always fear that is going to arise in every different aspect of our life. It's just a part of life. But what's also a part of life is finding the courage within ourselves to to get outside of our comfort zones and to face our fears and to go after and do something that is, it's difficult for us. Courage is the quality of being able, to decide to do something that's difficult or dangerous outside of your comfort zone, something that makes you, just makes you feel uneasy, makes you feel scared. And it's the decision to go after it anyways and make the life that you want anyways. We shouldn't have, fear holding us back. And I think fear is one of the biggest things that does hold us back in life. And that's why we need to be more courageous than ever. Our courage needs to always overpower our fear. And when we feel that fear, overpowering us, that's when we need to find our courage and fight through. It's just something that we need to be able to find within ourselves and in our lives to continue on. And I think right now during the pandemic, since there's so much fear, it's just a perfect time to talk about courage and finding that within ourselves. And this will go, it correlates with everything that's happening right now, but it also so many different aspects of your life that will happen later on and that probably has happened in the past and, what's going to happen in the future, what's happening right now. It doesn't matter when. There's always going to be fear. There's always going to be something that's holding us back where we need to find that courage to fight through. So there's 6 different types of courage. So there's physical courage, social, moral, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. So I guess those are kind of the 7 main categories, if you will, of courage. And it just all kind of relates to different aspects of your life, I would say. So physical courage, this is probably the most common thing people think of is, it's that bravery that you have when you're at risk of harm, of physical harm, whether that's, just some kind of bodily harm or sometimes death, it involves that physical strength and awareness to fight through it and to be able to do it and to surpass your fears. So this is, being able basically to just do whatever you want no matter what, and finding that courage within yourself. So this is the physical courage within your body that you find. And then there's social courage, which is, it's the type of courage that it's, when you think of social anxiety, that's what we need to have. We need to have social courage to beat our social anxiety. It's that fear of social embarrassment or, rejection, unpopularity, the feelings of, that you just don't belong. And so you're embarrassed and you feel awkward and uncomfortable, in social situations. So having social courage also involves having leadership and being able to, set that example for not only yourself, but others as well. So if you have a hard time, in social settings and you need to amp up your social courage, we have to find that leadership role within yourself. Find that strength, that basically that way that you can just kind of be ahead of all the embarrassment, be ahead of the social circle that you're scared of the unpopularity, you're scared of the rejection. Rise above that. If you have your social courage high enough, if you're so courageous enough that you don't let, the social embarrassment get to you, the rejection get to you, the unpopularity or anything like that, most of the time it's just in your head anyways. So be your own leader and find yourself, ways that you can overcome that, and you can be on top of the social rejection or the social unpopularity or embarrassment. 9 times out of 10, it's in your head, and it's not actually as embarrassing as you would think, but you have to find that courage within yourself, that leader within yourself. Be the leader for you. You are your own leader, and so rise above that embarrassment. Rise above what you think is kind of going on and have that social courage to be able to just be yourself. And this comes with, not caring what other people think of you, which is one of the most difficult things I think we can do in our life. Is we always are scared of what other people are going to think. And I admire people that do not care what other people think, because as much as I would say, I don't care what anyone thinks, there's always a sliver, there's a portion of me that's, I do kind of care. Because that's human, that's normal, it's natural. But if you're able to rise above that and fight through it, that's your social courage, being able, it doesn't matter if I get other people's approval. I am my own leader, I have my own approval, I am courageous within myself, that I don't need to, I don't need to feel low or discouraged from rejection or embarrassment or anything like that. So find that leadership role within yourself. And then there's intellectual courage. So this speaks basically to our willingness to engage with challenging ideas or question our thinking. And it's also the risk of making mistakes. It's quite scary. Like if you're ever in a room, you're in a classroom or a workshop or something like that, and you're not quite sure if you know the answer, and you don't really know if you want to, raise your hand. That kind of involves social courage as well, but it's the intellectual courage of not caring if you're wrong and being able to challenge yourself with new ideas and being comfortable with not understanding new concepts. People that have that perfectionism in them find this really hard to be able to challenge your own thinking and to, really try to think outside the box and try different challenging ideas. None of us like to fail. None of us like to be wrong, but we have to find that the courage inside of us to challenge our own brains, because if we're repeating the same schedule, we're repeating the same routine, we're never going to be growing. So try to challenge your brain. It can be as simple as challenging your brain with, reading more difficult books, learning different concepts. You can do different tutorials and things like that. So we get so comfortable with being able to do something that we forget that there's always new things to learn. There's always more things to absorb. So challenge your thinking with, I think the easiest way to challenge your brain and your thinking is reading new books, testing yourself. There's so many different intellectual stuff that you can find online that you can help test yourself to try to challenge. Go to a workshop or enroll yourself in a class that is completely out of your wheelhouse. It's terrifying, but have that courage to learn something new. Have the courage, don't you want to share new facts and be knowledgeable about something new? You can never go wrong with too much education. I'm sure you've heard that lots before. Education never goes to waste because we are learning and growing every single day. So, if you find that you're at a plateau and you need to learn more, challenge yourself, go to a different workshop, enroll yourself in a class, try different books, surround yourself with people that you find are on a higher intellectual level as you, and have a conversation. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and it challenges you, or it scares you to have that conversation with them because it's like, wow, this person is so much smarter than I am. And it doesn't mean that they really are smarter than you are. They might be smarter than you are in certain subjects, but we all have our expertise. We all have things that we're comfortable about. So challenge yourself with meeting people that are intellectual in different ways than you. Go outside your comfort zone, go outside your wheelhouse, and have a conversation with someone that is quite terrifying. But see how much you will learn from that, from challenging your intellectual levels and having the courage to learn new things. And it is so courageous to go have a conversation with someone that you think is so intellectually on a different level than you, or going to a workshop that going to a workshop too where other people are, more experienced or have experience at it, where you go in kind of completely just blank, you have no idea, that's super scary, but you're challenging your brain. And I think that's a really, really important thing that we should be doing in our lives, is always challenging what we're learning every day. We get into this routine, we get into this sink of just the same thing. And that's why we have to, not just challenge our bodies and our courage physically, but we have to challenge our minds and the education that we're getting on a day-to-day basis. So try to challenge yourself, talk to more people, read new books, go to different classes, all those types of things that you can challenge your brain. Don't shy away from something just because it looks really difficult to read or to understand. Don't shy away from a tutorial or a class because I don't have experience and that's going to be really difficult to learn. The difficult things in life are so worthwhile, because after you accomplish it, after you find your courage and you accomplish it, you are going to have the most amazing feeling on the inside. Okay, it's time for another break, but when we get back, I'm going to be talking about moral courage, emotional courage, spiritual courage as well. So I'm going to go over the next 3 courages with you, different types. As well, I will talk more just about the importance of finding courage within yourself. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast. Okay, let's jump right back into the information. So I'm going to talk about the next 3 different types of courage, and then I'm going to jump into some tips and tricks of how to boost your courage within yourself. So let's just get started. So the next one I want to talk about is emotional courage. So this is the type of courage that opens us to basically feeling a full spectrum of positive emotions, kind of at the risk of feeling negative emotions. And like fear in our life, it's always going to be there. So are negative emotions and negative thoughts and all of that. And I talk a lot about, if you give out positive energy, you will receive positive energy. But that emotional courage inside of you is really what's going to help you feel all of that positive energy, no matter, whether you're going to feel some negative energy as well. I think this kind of correlates, I would say, with relationships a lot. So when you have, when you're in a relationship and say you've been really hurt, and then you kind of emotionally pull back from your other relationships because you have felt that negative feeling of being hurt by an individual, your heart's been broken or something like that. It can be really, really difficult to find that emotional courage within yourself to focus on all the positive emotions from that relationship. Even though you still have that fear of getting your heart broken or feeling that negative emotion of how it didn't work out or how you got hurt within the run of the relationship. So I find that, emotional courage is very, very crucial when we are in a relationship with somebody, and when we are, dealing with our own emotions as well. We can feel all these positive things, and then something negative happens, and we can't let that just wipe out all of the positive emotions that we're feeling. Instead, we have to make sure that we can feel all the positivity while, we can't have it in the back of our mind, well, something negative, a negative emotion is going to come up, it's going to come crashing down. A lot of people do not let themselves be happy because they are scared of being happy. They don't have the courage to be happy. They don't have the courage to feel all these positive emotions just because they felt some pretty bad negative ones before, and that takes a toll on them. And, it's very human, it's very normal to have that fear, but we have to find the emotional courage to feel positive emotions. If we don't have that emotional courage to feel those positive emotions, then how are we ever going to live our happy and healthy life? So we can't be scared of the painful emotions that we feel, because those are all part of our growing and a part of our lives in general. So don't steer away from happiness just because you felt a severe sadness in your life before. Sadness and negative emotions, anger, all those types of things, they come in waves, just like fear does, just like happiness does. Everything comes in waves in our lives, and we have to be able to regulate our emotions and understand them. And this is just something, I wish I could give you a tip that helps you have emotional courage. And there's no one thing that we can do. I think having emotional courage is about experience. It's about experiencing negative and positive thoughts and emotions, and it's about learning how to cope with them depending on the person that you are. This all relates to our mental health, right? And so it's having those proper coping mechanisms for emotional courage. And over time, I think we just learn those things. When you find that someone has been hurt quite badly, they're quite emotionally intelligent, because they've learned, they've hit rock bottom, they've gone through these negatives, and they've felt the positives, and they've kind of, it's gone up and down and stuff like that. And you learn to experience your own wavelengths of emotions. So that all just comes with experience, I have to say. The next one I want to talk about, though, is moral courage. So this involves doing the right thing, particularly when the risk involves shame or disapproval of others. It's like when you get placed in an uncomfortable position, when someone, gives you an ultimatum where it's like, you have to lie for me, or you have to do this, or, and you're kind of stuck in this position of, do I go left or do I go right? Do I do what's right because that's morally right within myself? Or do I lie, or do I do something that's morally incorrect that I don't believe in because that's what people are going to, or that's what the single person or multiple people want me to do? I find that our moral courage is quite influenced by other people. So if you feel that someone is pressuring you to do something that you don't feel morally right, that's when you have to find your moral courage to focus on your beliefs. And my tip for you here is just to find what you really do believe in, connect with yourself, be aware of yourself, connect with your beliefs and what you want out of life and what you believe in life, and remind yourself of those things. And always remember that the most important thing is you, and taking care of yourself and loving yourself first. So if you are not going to like your decision because of that someone else is trying to influence you to do, or that you might feel shame of doing because of other factors, always question, how am I going to feel about myself after? Because the most important thing is to feel like a good person. And if you don't feel like a good person, then maybe you're making the wrong choice. So always kind of question yourself, what do I believe in, and how is this going to make me feel after? And then lastly, I want to talk about spiritual courage. So this questions, faith and purpose and meaning. And of course, this has the, religious and non-religious kind of aspects to it. But mostly I just want to talk about, I find spiritual courage kind of goes, hand in hand with moral courage as well. It's finding what you believe in and what you think of the world and what you strongly think as a human and what you think is going to make you as a person. If you are spiritually, open to all these positive vibes and these positive things, and you're open to manifestation and spiritual things like this, then you can find that that's your spiritual courage to try different spiritual aspects. And, it's basically kind of like experimenting, seeing what you do believe in, but always remembering that moral courage of your true core beliefs. So spiritual courage is a difficult thing. I find that's also kind of impacted by the influence of other people. So what someone's spiritual influence is, how are they going to affect you? And so just always, once again, question yourself, what do I believe in? And maybe what do I want to believe in? Maybe it's pushing outside your comfort zone and trying to find spiritual courage in something that you normally wouldn't believe in yourself, that you wouldn't find spiritually. So it's finding that openness and that open mind to try new things. Even if you're not a spiritual person, find that spiritual courage to be open to what there is out there, whether you believe in it or you don't. So those are the 6 different types of courage. And now I want to just give you some quick tips on how to boost your courage in most situations and just in general in your life. So, like I said, there's always going to be fear in our life. There's always going to be things like that, but we can always find courage within ourselves. And we have to remember that fear is literally just chemicals. It is chemicals in our brains. It's chemicals that, are clashing, and that's how it works. And so we don't have to define ourselves and define our actions by these chemicals. That is just fear. It is just chemicals. So we can find the courage to break out of that. So it's remembering that fear is just chemicals. Chemicals in our brain they're flooding into your brain, and we don't have to listen to those chemicals. We don't have to pay attention to them. Our courage can overpower that. So just remind yourself, when you feel that fear, sometimes this works for people, sometimes this doesn't, but sometimes just reminding yourself it is just a chemical going through your body, through your brain, that can help you kind of separate yourself from the fear and then find that courage. Always enlarge your comfort zone if you can. So I know I say work outside your comfort zone, find that growth, but sometimes we need to, when we start to work outside of our comfort zone, we're actually enlarging it, because now we've done that before and now we kind of feel comfortable. So just continue to enlarge your comfort zone. And I think when you say it that way and you word it that way to yourself, instead of saying, I'm pushing outside of my comfort zone, I'm getting uncomfortable, maybe change the wording to, I'm enlarging my own comfort zone. And I need to do, this task to enlarge it. So try to switch the way that you're talking to yourself. That can be really, really beneficial. Always breathe. Breathe. Stop. Take a breath. Count to 10. Sometimes, have you ever, say you're going to do something that's scary? For me, as an example, cliff jumping. I always go to this one place in the summer in this lake, and there's cliffs and all this stuff, and I always get scared. I love heights. I love these types of things, but it doesn't stop me from being scared when you're standing at the top of the cliff, about to jump into the water. And that's when you need to find the courage. And for me, I count down to 3. 1, 2, 3, go. And that's it. You just have to do it. 1, 2, 3, and go. I stop, I breathe, make sure I'm calming down, and then count to 3 and jump. I think counting to 3 and taking those deep breaths, they kind of just reset you and make you more aware of kind of where you're at and what's going on. I hope that makes sense. So breathe, count to 3, and then you take your action. And then my last little tip here that I wanted to share with you is, I think, one of the most crucial ones. And instead of asking yourself, what do I need to do? Ask yourself, who do I need to become? So when we start stretching outside of our comfort zone and we start committing to acts of courage, we often focus on what we need to do to execute this task, to do this action. But what we really need to try to shift in our brains and everything is not what do we need to do, it's who do we need to become. So I'm not saying, okay, change who you are just so you can do something courageous. I'm saying, try to find that different person within inside of you. We are made up of so many different qualities and characteristics and elements within inside of us. Find that adrenaline junkie within you, find that intellectual individual that wants to, learn more and strive, that scientist in you. Find that, the bodybuilder in you that wants to go hard at the gym, whatever you want to do that's courageous. Find, who do you need to become within you instead of what do you need to do? Once again, it's changing your words and changing the way that you talk to yourself that's actually going to help you find the courage. It's all about the way that we interact with ourselves because we need to find the courage within ourselves. So, remember to breathe, change your thought process when you can, enlarge your comfort zone. I know I said that was my last tip, but I have one more thing that we can also do is when we're thinking of saying like, who do I need to become, we can also try to change this wording to how would a friend in the same situation, how would they do it? Sometimes you can look up to friends or to a mentor, someone that you feel is above you, maybe on an intellectual or physical level, whatever kind of courage you're trying to fight at this time. How would they do it? And try to view them. And, if it's someone that you look up to, that you find super courageous, that can give you that motivation to do it. So it's, once again, changing the way that you talk to yourself, your thought process can help you find that courage within yourself. I hope this gave you motivation to find courage in a scary, dark pandemic that we're all dealing with right now. I hope it gave you motivation to try new things and to pull out your courage in all 6 different types of courage. And it's important to find all 6 different types of courage within ourselves because it correlates to so many different aspects in our lives. But remember, it always starts within you and your happiness. And so be who you want to be so you can create the life that you want. And then happiness and all those positive vibes and energy is going to come with it. So, there's always going to be fear, but you will always have courage inside of you as well. You sometimes just have to dig a little deeper to find it. But it's there. All right. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I had an amazing time sharing this information with you today. I just thought it was so relatable to what's going on right now because so much fear and unknown is around us, and this is the time we gotta find our courage. So I appreciate you being here. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, to like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. It helps so much, and it is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing more with you next time. Bye!
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.